Just before we get into the podcast, I'm going to ask you to do me a favour and hit subscribe. Why am I asking you to hit subscribe? Well, it's because more people like you will get to hear the content and they will then be able to build their coaching business just like you. It's nice to be nice, isn't it? Thanks for listening and subscribing. So, without further ado, let's let Chris into the room. Brilliant. All right, welcome, Chris, the Cracked Kick-Ass Coach podcast. And we're laughing because we've just had a major technical hitch.
I don't know if it's the technology as opposed to the person that was trying to use it. So, yeah, technology is not my sweet spot.
Well, there we go. Somebody used the phrase the other day, tech nana, and I quite like that. Tech nana.
Yeah, no, that sounds like me.
Oh, right. Okay. So welcome your business. I love the name
you.
of your business. It's called the In-Cre-Mentalist.
Yes.
Let's start there.
Well, that I guess is me. So
Right.
I position myself as chief incrementalist.
Right.
So the business is actually called Incremental, and as you mentioned, there's a hyphen between the so it's IN hyphen CRE hyphen mental. So and kind of the reason why the reason why it's spelt like that is because I couldn't get incremental.com as one word. But when I actually looked at it and figured what I could do, as we like to do as humans, I discovered a story that I could kind of wrap around the name. So, like IN for me is about the kind of internal. So, that's very much for me, like everything starts for us as human beings internally. How we see the world, how we interact with other people, all, it's all developed internally and then kind of projected outwards. And then CRE was kind of creative. So it's looking at different ways that we can kind of approach problems that maybe sometimes we again, the human condition is to try and be very, get comfortable. And I think, certainly you read the research and read the books and whatever. And, our growth comes from when we're challenged.
Yeah, it does.
And we have this constant paradox of where we're desperate to be comfortable and safe, but equally all our purpose and value comes from being challenged and to a certain degree stressed in life. And then mental was the kind of it's what goes on in our heads. As I say, is we all see a different world. When we look out from our brains, it's the lenses that our eyes allow us to see the world in is different for every single human being, and so there is very much a mental aspect to both health and but also how we interact with the world and how we can find purpose and contentment in life. So that's kind of so it all kind of worked together. And then I am the chief incrementalist, and actually the word incremental obviously is small steps, and that's one of my big things. We desperately try and overcomplicate things because we think that creates value in that thing, but everything has to happen in steps. And so when I live back, I live in the UAE now. When I lived in the UK, I used to do a lot of endurance events and ultra distance things, and it all kind of started with the analogy of using a marathon. So when you're set up to run a marathon, you have to know where to start. So that's really important step that I think often gets missed is, where are you? Where's the start point? And what does that mean to you? And then, what's your goal? And quite often we can't see the goal. We can't as in a marathon, the finish line is somewhere out there,
Yeah.
but we can't see it. But it's each individual step forward that takes us closer to that goal, and that's where I try and focus. Not to draw people away completely from what the goal is,
Yeah.
but to get from point A to point B, you have to
Yeah.
take the steps. There is no shortcut. So
No, no, there's no shortcut. There's
no,
no quick fix.
no.
Going back to that, learning through painful experiences, learning through stress, the Buddhists
Yes,
talk about suffering. The purpose of life is
yes,
suffering. And
yeah,
it took me ages to work out what they meant by that. And recently it's about learning,
mm,
actually. It is that you can only really learn properly about who you are, what you're about, and why you're here on this planet through pain and difficulty. And I
yeah,
think that's probably what they mean by that, definitely. So
yeah.
what got you into the marathon? And because you didn't just do marathons, did you?
Oh, I just
You
jumped
did
out in it.
crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started, I guess, I'm built for distance.
Right,
I think is probably
right.
the way I would put it. And I discovered, so when I was younger, I joined the cadets, which is like
Oh,
sort of
okay.
I, don't- I try to avoid the word paramilitary, but it's kind of it's that kind of thing for kids, where
It's
you're
like
it's
souped up scouts, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like
exactly
scouts
that.
on
Yeah.
acid.
Yeah. And you tend to be associated with a particular, part of the armed services. So I was in the Air Cadets, right?
Right.
And we used to run a lot. And I found that I had a kind of a not a gift for it, but I just, I was kind of good at it, built for it,
Right.
and I used to really enjoy it because it was a way for me to compete with myself. So when I was
Mm,
at school, I was never really into sports, but
right.
then joining the cadets, like, the individuality of running distance events, because you're never really, unless you're a professional, and never really running to win it
No, no.
necessarily. You're running to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Yeah,
I think is the
definitely.
thing. And so yeah, I mean, like, that kind of got me into those things. The first time I remember I ran the London Marathon was my first kind of marathon.
You chose a big one.
Oh yes. But I was lucky. A friend of mine had said to me, and I was working in the health and fitness industry, so I was relatively fit and healthy. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, do you fancy doing this? Because I've got, a spot." And so I was
Right.
like, "Yeah, why not?" And I did. I think I remember doing 3 10K runs as my
Right.
prep, and that
Right.
was it.
Was that it? Oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah.
Chris.
And then we were talking about suffering earlier. So,
Yeah,
that's where I learned the Buddhist art of suffering.
yeah,
Because
definitely. Big time.
I mean, I hit the wall. So around 22 miles, I just, my legs seized up. I kind of hobbled, ran, whimpered to the end.
Yeah.
But the weird thing with that was I got to the end, I finished it, got the medal, got everything, and completely dismissed it as an event. I was not that it wasn't worthwhile to do marathons, but that my what it meant almost nothing to me other than a way to kind of beat myself. So it
Okay.
was it was a thing to say, well, you didn't do that very well. Your time wasn't great. You didn't train properly, and it was a real kind of, and it took a while, like a number of years, and not that these are related, but a failed marriage.
Right.
So off the back of that, I was having some counselling for me to kind of identify that, I'd done what I set out to do. Like my goal was
Mm.
to get to the end, and I got to the end. How I did it, that was something to work on and something to
Yeah.
learn from.
Yeah, definitely.
So which thankfully I did. And then yeah, like you say, I was kind of did a few marathons, and then I've got a crazy friend in the UK. And he always used to be the one that would be like, "Oh, do you fancy doing this?"
Right.
And a bit like the marathon, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll do
All
that."
right then. I've
Yeah,
got nothing else on Sunday. Yeah, why
no,
not?
exactly. But we ended up doing the Marathon des Sables, which is a 7-day event in the Northern Sahara.
7 days in the desert.
Yeah, and
Right.
you run. I mean, it's spread out so there are different distances per day, but you end up running around about 7 marathons,
Crikey.
and which was I ended up on a drip in the middle of the desert
Oh
for
my
that and
God.
almost got pulled. So
Oh no.
yeah,
Serious.
I yeah, I got some really so Médecins Sans Frontières are the people who kind of look after the medical side of things, and
Right.
their way of dealing with blisters is just to kind of if you're squeamish, stop listening,
Right.
cut the blister or like the skin, the bubble
Yeah.
off, and then pack iodine and then just put a bandage over it. But unfortunately, I was getting a lot of sand in my shoes, and then that
Yeah.
was kind of creating more and more inflammation. So, yeah, so that was a good one. But again, finish that. I did a kayak event, which was the Devizes to Westminster, which obviously are two places in the UK.
Yeah.
Um, so you do that as a team, so 2 man, and they're skinny little kayaks.
Tiny. Yeah, tiny little things, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
well, that you're supposed to be the idea is to try and do it in 24 hours, but because
Okay.
the Thames is a tidal river,
Yeah. Yeah.
so if
And quite
you
busy as well.
and
In a
quite
little
busy,
in a little kayak. That must have been a
yeah.
little bit unnerving at times.
But we got to so if the tide turns, obviously you're then just you're going nowhere, you're just
Yeah.
paddling to get nowhere, and
Yeah.
in the end, I mean, we finished that one as well, but it took us I think 32 hours.
Jesus.
So yeah.
Right, Chris, how are you
Yeah.
using all this life experience in coaching? And also, I have another question about you being in UAE. So, yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
start with how are you using this with your clients?
So I think for me with my clients, one of the big things that I try to focus on is this idea that, we are the same people whether we're in or out of the
Mm.
workplace,
It's true.
as I was
It's
saying.
true.
And so with this kind of, I mean, I've got a very eclectic looking CV, but a
Mm,
lot of it's been spent in the health and fitness industry.
yeah.
And so I try to look holistically at the human being
Okay.
and identify like I help people obviously to identify you know their start point, where are they exactly and where
Mm,
do they want to be, and then and I for me there are a number of pillars that feed into that. So how are you emotionally, how are you,
mm,
what's your sleep like, what's your food like, what's your exercise or activity levels like,
mm.
because all of them feed, everything feeds into
It does.
each other, and
It does.
eventually kind of feeds into us and our mental health
Yeah.
or lack thereof, whether we're kind of on the positive side or the negative side of mental health. And so yeah, I mean, I guess I draw a lot from. I was saying to somebody the other day, I was coaching a client, and I was saying to them, I basically end up coaching myself,
Yeah.
because I mean, for one, when you are a coach, you tend to get as much out of a session as
Do.
as your clients do.
You really do. Yeah.
But also, obviously, I resonate with people similar to, like, what is it they'd say in NLP? If I'm like you can like me because I'm like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess, there's that. I the various, we when we were kind of setting this up, the various bits that I've been through, you know, moving country, divorced parents, failed
Mm,
marriage, I mean, I'm now in a very, very happy marriage, but
Good. Hooray.
yeah, yeah. Being a father, being a
Mm.
husband, being somebody who's run their own business, is running their own business, but has also worked, in relatively senior levels and in other businesses and run business for other people. And,
Mm.
so I think the reason that it's taken me sort of as long as it's taken me to get to this point is because I've been working on me
Yeah.
as much as, and trying to figure me out.
Yeah.
And that's still a work in progress like all of us. But
Yeah.
I think, it's what can I take from my past, and the struggles that I've had, to utilize that for people to, and one of the things that I sort of talk a lot about is men's mental health. So,
Right.
for me, it's being the examples, like not being afraid to talk about how,
Yeah.
things aren't necessarily, and not, I mean, I'm English, so I do like good old moan.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like taking those struggles and seeing them for what they are.
Mm.
It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow, and that's taken me a long time to realize myself. So I think, that's fundamentally how I use all of this stuff is one, health and well-being are a big kind of foundation stone for me and my coaching.
So important. It's so
Yeah,
important. And it's
but
often left out of executive coaching.
yeah, I think
And it
so.
should be part and parcel of it, definitely.
I believe, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
100% agree with you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
I think,
Tired of being a lonely coach? Well, don't be alone any longer. Join us at tricrest.com, tricres.com. Find all the models, frameworks, PowerPoints, tools you're ever going to need as a coach, help on marketing, selling, and position yourself as a coach, plus a lot of other great kick-ass coaches are in that community. We'll see you there, tricres.com. Bye.
yeah, and the, even, I mean, one tiny little aspect can make such a big difference. When you
Mm,
talk about sleep, and
mm,
now, like none of us are as good. We're not optimizing ourselves unless our sleep is optimized,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and
we're not.
when you start to look at business, coaching and executive coaching, most of the people you're coaching are having sleep struggles,
Yeah,
which are then impacting on everything else that's
yeah,
happening to them.
yeah.
So,
I believe I once read somewhere that we eat something like an extra 250 to 500 calories in a day when we're super tired. Yeah, I read that. I
yeah,
think it was after my second or third child, because obviously you're sleep deprived after
yeah,
children.
yeah,
And like, why do I constantly want to eat toast? Oh,
yeah,
because I'm absolutely knackered.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So what took you to the UAE?
What took me to the UAE? Itchy feet, I guess.
Okay.
I've always, I mean, after my after my parents split up, we moved. So I moved with my mum and my two brothers to the West Country,
Nice.
from London,
Right.
and I grew up in a like formative years in a small market town in the UK,
Right.
and I just from the point at which I became aware of where I was living, I kind
Yeah.
of wanted to leave.
Right. Okay.
So, and that's like, I mean, it's a lovely place and a lovely
Yeah.
part of the country, as I can see, as I look back.
Yeah.
But to a sort of teenager growing up in that environment,
Mm,
I was desperate to get out,
yeah.
and see the world,
Mm.
and I think, I know it's not for everybody, but I genuinely believe that travel is an amazing,
Yeah.
thing for, and I think as many people who can do it should do it,
Yeah.
because I think it gives you a real different perspective on the world, and how we're, so privileged, in a lot of the more, I mean, for want of a better word, developed countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
But equally, how, all the stuff that we've got, doesn't
Mm.
necessarily isn't the thing that brings you
Oh,
happiness.
it really
So,
doesn't.
no.
No, I've been listening a lot to Deepak Chopra recently,
Okay. Yeah.
and one of his lines was, "You don't own possessions; possessions own you."
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
Ferrari owns you, the private jet owns you, the big house owns you. And I thought, he's absolutely right. They
Yeah.
do own you. And another, I've been going down Buddhist and spiritual rabbit holes recently,
Fair play
Cliff.
to you.
So that's what's coming in now. The other thing that Buddhist monks are taught to do is visit a graveyard every day
Okay.
to really focus your attention on the fact that your time here is brief and that actually when you're in the ground you can't take any of that stuff with
Yeah.
you. It's
Yeah.
left behind.
Yeah.
um and I think that started when my mum died like 13, 14 years ago, and I was left with literally a room full of
Yeah.
stuff that I know she agonized over in terms of buying and keeping and things like that. And most of it went to the charity shop.
Yeah.
And I've been on a mission since then to not gather too much into my home.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't, when I eventually go, I don't want my kids to have a room full of stuff or a house full of stuff that they go, right, well, that's going to the charity shop.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot in that, definitely.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the UAE? Were you there before it got trendy?
Oh God, yeah.
Right, okay.
I believe me coming to the UAE might well have set that trend off. Um, so Lucy and I, my wife and I and my son have well, not him, but Lucy and I came here in 2007. So
Wow.
yeah, we're 18 months. We actually landed on Halloween.
Did you?
Yeah, of 2007. So we're very close to our 18th anniversary of being
Wow.
here, and
Wow.
it was a real kind of, it was firing on all cylinders when we got here. I mean, and to be honest with you, um, like it takes you. I don't know if you've lived in another country or been an
Scotland.
expat
I
before.
live in
Have you?
Scotland
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, completely.
and I'm English.
Uh, I have to live with constantly not being welcome.
I'm Edinburgh, so it's different.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
right.
it's very
Posh
different.
Scottish.
Yeah. Yeah, it is posh Scottish.
Yeah.
The posh Edinburghers sound more English than the English.
It's a beautiful city though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it
I've
is.
only been once to Edinburgh, but oh my God, we had such a good weekend.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Um, so yeah, it can take you up to like 18 months really to
Yeah.
kind of feel like you're settled, and you've got a group of friends that that you enjoy being with,
Yeah.
and that, and when we first got here, I mean, oh my goodness, the first sort of 6 months, I mean, I don't think I met anybody that I wanted to meet again.
Right.
And
That's amazing.
yeah, no, and and the traffic was, or and it's getting like it again, but
Right.
it was a difficult because you're transitioning as well, and
Yeah.
you're having to learn all these different kind of idiosyncrasies, and you're having to grow into a different place.
Yeah.
But the recession came. Thankfully, we were both employed at the time,
Right.
kept our jobs,
Right.
and and obviously I don't know if people remember the stories, but I mean the place emptied out. Like
Yeah.
literally, it was.
Remember the pictures of people abandoning their posh cars and car
Yeah, yeah,
parks
yeah,
at the airport and just
yeah,
heading back to wherever they came
yeah,
from.
yeah,
Yeah. It
yeah.
was
And
incredible.
look, I mean, it's been a fantastic place for us to
Mm.
live. I mean,
Yeah.
we got married here. My son was
Mm.
born here.
Wow.
The big stuff's happens to me here, and it is, the sun shines every day,
Yeah.
which it's a difficult place to leave
Yeah. I can
as and
imagine
when
actually.
that happens,
Yeah.
it will be difficult, and we've made some friendships for life here, and
Yeah.
you know of course it has its idiosyncrasies like everywhere, and you still
Mm.
have to get up in the morning and go to work
Yeah.
and earn a crust and pay you
Yeah.
you know pay I mean, it's tax free, but there are ways that you get kind of uh the government benefits from you being here.
Yeah. Definitely.
But it's been absolutely brilliant for us, and
Brilliant.
but yeah, so like both me and my wife, like I say, it was itchy feet thing. We both traveled a bit when we met.
Right,
It's one of the things we talked about. She managed to convince the company that she was working for to set up an office here.
right.
I'd just retrained as a personal trainer and managed to get, the one job that I could find as a PT over here.
Brilliant,
And
brilliant.
yeah, and I
Rest
mean,
is history.
the rest
So
is history. Yeah.
your clients are all over the world, are they now?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
try to. So predominantly, I would say they're here.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I have international clients as well. So
right.
um, and that's the aim. That's where I want to get to is a
Yeah,
point where, I'm kind of when we get to the point where we are financially free,
yeah,
then we can live wherever we want to,
yeah.
and work fits in around that.
Right.
That's the plan.
Perfect. I love it.
What is
So
they say
where,
about plans?
yeah, no,
Go
I love it. You have to
on.
have an intention. You have to
You
have a,
do,
you do
absolutely,
a
absolutely.
general direction
Yes,
of travel
yes,
and
absolutely agree.
not get your knickers in a twist if you don't make it to that goal or that intention,
Yeah,
but enjoy the journey along the way. I
yeah,
think that's the bit of refinement there in that, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely have an intention and
yeah,
then see where the world takes you whilst you're
yeah,
following that intention. Definitely
yeah.
don't get wedded to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
that's one of the, I was talking to a client actually last week about that very thing. And,
Hmm.
we were discussing what his kind of goal was.
Hmm.
And his, I mean, I won't kind of get into any specifics, but his goal
No.
is to get, so he left his last job because it was kind of a toxic, pretty
Right.
toxic environment, wasn't doing his mental health any good.
No.
And so, he determined that it would be better to leave. Obviously, it's always more challenging to get a job when you don't have a job.
Yeah.
But so that's his goal. And because, as we talked about before, how things link to each other. So,
Mm.
his financial confidence is linked to, and his financial future is linked to
Mm.
having a job. And certainly a certain part of his internal makeup, is bolstered by having a job,
Yeah.
and what that brings.
Yeah.
Now, but at the moment, his focus is very, very much on that bit of it.
Right.
And we've worked on kind of drawing him back and saying, right, yes, that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
But right today, it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. Right? You're not
Yeah.
going to either get the job. I mean, if you're really lucky, you might. But
Right. Yeah.
today is what can we do today
Yeah.
to take us closer and to, like you say, follow that path, follow that intention.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
what
you know it's the actions today
it
that
is, and what he needs to learn whilst he's in this place of suffering,
yeah,
whilst the difficulties occurring, what does he need to get out of that? Definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
nice one.
yeah.
Great. So here's my existential question, Chris.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, if you knew you had only 12 months left in your current form on this planet,
Wow.
how would you live the next 12 months differently?
um I would travel more. I
Right.
think that's the thing. As I say, we've been here 18 years now, and we've been very fortunate, in terms of holidays and things. But I think, um, if money were no object,
Yeah.
then travel's the thing I'd do. I'd spend the next 12, well, I'll probably spend like the next 10 months traveling with my
Yeah.
wife and my son,
Lovely.
and experiencing the world and getting him, for him to experience as well. And then, the last month or two, with family, friends,
Lovely.
just, reminding them all, what they'll miss
Yeah.
when I'm gone.
You'll just transform into a different.
Exactly. Well, yeah, do and this is the thing, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I turned 57 this summer, and so I'm closer to the end than I've ever
Yeah.
been,
Yeah.
and quite often my mind will go to that point of,
Yeah.
there'll be a point at which my son, I won't see him grow further.
Yeah.
And, but, and the thing that gives me comfort is, I mean, I can't remember, like, I'm not a fay on science, but, like energy cannot be destroyed. Right?
It
I think
can't.
that's and so, we are what kind of gets us moving and going is, there's energy in us.
Yeah.
And so we will eventually become something else. Like you say, it's,
Yeah.
and I think that's the bit that gives me comfort.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got spread my dad's ashes actually. He died last year,
Okay.
and so me and my brothers are talking about doing something together and taking his ashes somewhere and then spreading them somewhere.
Nice.
I mean,
Good.
he left no instructions whatsoever.
Oh,
So
great. So you just have to
so
make it up.
we get to do what we like with it. But I mean, it's and that it's funny when my elder brother's got the ashes at his
Right.
house, and he was saying, they are surprisingly heavy.
Yeah, they are. They're quite weighty.
Yeah, and
They
you're
are.
like, that's such an interesting,
Yeah,
an interesting thing because obviously they have a physical weight,
they do.
but equally, I guess, maybe that is added to a bit by the emotional or psychological weight that they represent as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
It's it was actually quite nice to know that they're quite heavy because I was like, well, if you just pick them up.
We have substance of some
Yeah,
kind.
exactly. Yeah, it's nice
There's
to
our
know.
ego right there. Oh, we
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
weigh of
Yeah.
something.
I mean, he was morbidly obese as well, so I would hope that he weighs something as well.
Bless him. Bless him, bless him, bless him. Oh, well, good luck with doing that. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, you're right. I think over 50,
Mm.
you go, right, I've got if the stats are correct, I've got about 35 years. How
Yeah.
am I going to use them?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
really focuses your mind. I count myself lucky, and at 33, I was diagnosed with the most virulent form of skin cancer.
Oh
So at
my God.
33, I went, oh, I won't live forever.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a thing. So since the age of 33, I've gone, right, I've been given a second chance, and I divorced at that age as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I've got a second chance here. And I think that's had a massive impact on how I live my
Yeah.
whole life. But turning 55 years ago, it's my birthday on Sunday, be
Oh,
55.
happy birthday.
Thank you. And yeah, that was another turning point. It was like, right, okay, I'm going to do more of what I want to do here.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Right, Chris, that was fantastic. I knew it'd be interesting because anybody who runs through the desert for fun has to an interesting
I'm
tale
not
to
entirely
tell.
sure I did it for fun, but no, it was.
I have no idea why you would do it. It was
Do you
like,
know what? I was
what?
watching. I saw it on the TV,
Right.
and this was probably one of the things that I did that I instigated with this friend of
Right.
mine. And I was watching it on TV, and I was like, "Oh my God, we should do that." So I rang
Right.
him immediately, and I was like, "Switch TV on and look at this." So, do you fancy doing that? And
This is a beautiful example about how people have a different lens on the world. So I
yeah.
would watch that and immediately go, that looks like hell. I'm never going to do that in a million years. So this is how we're all different. And
Exactly.
thank goodness
Exactly.
for that. Thank
Yes,
goodness for that.
exactly that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. Have a
Brilliant. My
fantastic
absolute
day.
pleasure. Will do. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Take care.
Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. We hope you got true value out of it. And if you did, what would be lovely is if you could leave us a 5-star rating. Why 5-star? Well, that helps the algorithm. And as we all know, the algorithms rule the world. So if you've enjoyed it and you've got value out of it, give us a 5-star rating so other people can enjoy it too. Thanks. See you next time.